Hey everybody, welcome back. In this episode, sort of mini-series that I'm doing, we've already looked at films and movies, we've already looked at songs and albums in two-part episodes, so two-part for films, two-part for music and albums. In this one, there's only going to be one episode because we're looking at books, and personally I haven't read anything past these books that I'm going to talk to you about. I'm not a book person. But I really want this episode to be for the people like me, and I assume quite a lot of you are probably like me because we're living in a generation where books are becoming less read. Everyone's going to TV and film, if that makes any sense, because it's a lot quicker to digest. That being said, if you ever do get a chance to read any of these, or ever want a chance to read any of these, please do. For different reasons. The first one, I'm going to start in terms of when I read them, so I'm going to do like a chronological order of these. The first one is actually, we've done a reading of on my channel. I did like an episode or two. Didn't really do too well in terms of views, so I sort of fucked it off a little bit. But a very, very, very good book series. All of these are actually a series because it happens quite a lot in terms of making books. A writer or a novelist creates this sort of world and universe within a book and these stories, and instead of doing something completely different in their second book that they want to write, they just carry on with this whole world, and they maybe take a different view of it, maybe go pre to the first book or carry on the series. And so all of these that I'm gonna talk about do have sequels and are in like a series of books. But the first one is Wolf Brother. Like I said, we had already done a reading of it on the channel. Go and I might leave a link to it in the description if I can find it, and if I remember to, just so that you guys can get a quick sort of preview to it. And if you like it, go and read it. It's the first book in the series, Chronicles of Ancient Darkness, by a lovely woman called Michelle Paver. It takes place 6,001 years ago. Obviously, it's probably this was in 2004, so it's now 6,015 years ago. Anyway, so it was set during the Middle Stone Age, and tells the story of a 12-year-old boy called Tarak, a boy of the Wolf Clan. That's literally all it says. The person doing this Wikipedia has obviously never read the book. It was well received by critics. It's actually very, very well received by critics. I was looking on just the Google page itself. It's had a 5 out of 5 from Waterstones, 4.5 out of 5 from another bookstore. I think it's WH. No, I've got these. Goodreads rate it 4.2. Waterstones 5 out of 5, and Book Trust 5 out of 5. And if you actually go onto Google, you get a 25-page preview of the book, so you can actually go and read it on Google if you want to. Get a feel for the book if you like it. You get to read part of chapter 1. I think you actually get... Yeah. And it also gives you a little brief... a brief preview of some of the words that come up. And if... No, ignore me. Ignore what I'm saying. Yeah, it's had a good reception. Anyway, it tells the story of this guy who is out with his dad, part of the wolf pack, and there's a possessed bear that kills his dad. That's how this book starts. And as this bear kills more people, he gets stronger and stronger. And on a certain point, or a certain date, he's going to get so strong that he's just unbeatable. So this wolf brother finds a baby cub, a wolf cub, and really, was it a wolf pup? Because wolf's part of a dog family. Baby wolf. I didn't know I was going to talk about pups. They are pups. Okay, fair dues. So it finds a pup of this wolf, obviously being part of the wolf pack. I was going to say they intermingle. That's wrong. They sort of integrate together, and they get along, and they have to go on this sort of adventure to avenge his dad's death at 12 years old, where he has to go sleep in caves. He has to sort of fend for himself, fight. He comes across different clans where he's maybe not so welcome, but he has to sort of convince them that he's only a kid, he's not done anything wrong, and he meets lots of different people. And it's just one of those films where, you know, being part of the Stone Age, he has to sort of fend for himself. There are different clans, there are different things. He has to find his way to the top of a mountain in order to gain the power to kill the bear. Stuff like that. And it's just one of those, it's a bit more, I don't want to say dystopian, because that's quite probably the wrong thing. It's quite a raw sort of kids. There are children's literature, to be fair. Fantasy fiction, it says, yeah, it's quite a good fiction, adventure fiction. If you're into sort of that sort of film or sort of genre anyway, you may really like that book. It's always been one for me that's a little bit harder to read, especially given the fact it's a children's book. And as a kid, I probably struggled to read a lot of it, but it does really set you up for reading other books and trying to get used to some terms that are used and whatnot. I'm struggling. I need to move my... Actually, I think I might get rid of the plastic thing that's underneath my desk because my chair keeps sliding until it hits the carpet. Anyway, it's a very good book written by Michelle Paver. There are 3 books in the trilogy. You get, after this is Spirit Walker, where it then follows on him and now his friends travel to a mysterious seal island to find the cure for a terrible sickness circulating through the forest in which they live. And then after that, what comes after? Soul Eater. It doesn't actually give me a preview for that. Let's see. Pardon me. Okay, so it's Winter and Wolf, Torak's beloved pack brother. So Wolf, the wolf, has been captured by an unknown foe. In a desperate bid to rescue him, Torak and Ren, as you'll then later come to realise is his best friend, must brave the far north as they battle for survival amid howling blizzards and the ever-present menace of a great white bear. So, now a great white bear. Just kidding, it's the same bear. Their friendship is tested to breaking point, and Torak is forced to get closer to his enemies than ever before. So, this actually has a plot summary. Jesus Christ. This came out in 2006, so I'd have been, 9 or 10 when this came out. A very, very good book series to read. Like I said, not a lot of you probably do read books. There's another trilogy after this. I didn't know that. It's loading. So there's actually 6 books in the series. I only really knew there was 3. Wow, so then you've got Outcast, Oathbreaker, and Ghost Hunter. So 6 books to read. I thought there was only 3. I thought it was a trilogy. Anyway, these books are very, very useful if you are really starting to get into books. You do want something a little bit different. The next one I'm going to talk about, I was going to do it in chronological order, but I'm not. I'm going to go on to the Hunger Games trilogy. Only because it's so obvious, you know. I know so many people that read these before the films even came out. I was a massive fan of these. I remember there was a point where I think I was about, when did it come out? 2008. Wow, okay, so I'd have been 9 again. 9 or 10. I didn't realise they were that late. Yeah, that early, sorry. I thought they were a bit later than that. Anyway, so I remember reading these, sat on my bed, I had a single half of a bunk bed because we used to have the bunk bed, but when we moved house, the bunk bed was able to split into 2 separate beds if needed, and then we split into 2 different rooms. Me and my brother did, so we had 1 bed each. Anyway, so I remember sitting on that bed and reading this. I think I borrowed it off a friend, and then for Christmas that year, my mum bought me my auntie bought me the trilogy of them, which was very kind of her. So yeah, I ended up reading the second one and then the third one. These books are sick. If you are a teen and you want a good book series, obviously, if you've watched the films, you'll know the plot and you'll know many things that happen. But like with anything that comes from a book to a film, there is so much that's missed out in the films that is ever present in the books. So reading them, make sure you do read them. If you're not a fan of reading something that you've already watched, there's probably no point if you've already seen them. If you haven't seen the films, definitely read the books and then watch the films. Or just go and watch the films, it's up to you. It's your choice, but it follows Katniss Everdeen, obviously. It's split into 12, what does it call them? 12 districts, sorry. She grows up in District 12, which is Coleridge. They're miners. All men. They obviously have like a bakery and stuff like that, but their own district has its own sort of main thing that they have to follow. They have to follow the government's rules. And if you live in District 1 or 2, you produce a lot more of the weapons and what, so you're a lot richer. The further down the district list you get to District 12, they're the poorest ones. You produce coal, you don't really produce too much income, therefore you don't get much back. District 13 once tried to rebel, and because of that, they got blown to bits, and then the government, or the capital, what is it called, decided to pit Hunger Games. You choose 2 champions from each, 1 boy and 1 girl between the ages of 12 and 18, to fight against each other once a year in order to, say, look, if you, basically what happens is that people are then immune, they get special rights, they get to travel to the capital, they receive more of an income, and they're pretty much set up for life. So that's your sort of, especially from the poorer districts, it's a case of, the Hunger Games, it's the shittest thing in the world, because you have to try and fight for survival, basically, in these Hunger Games. However, there are different things. There's like care packages that come up, but only sent in by people that are sponsors, so people from the capital that can send in gifts. So there's this whole sort of pre-thing. It's like a pre-show. It's like a Champions League final, except during the game, there's special benefits given to those that have impressed people. Anyway, Katniss volunteers because her sister was chosen, and goes in with a person called Peter. And it all just sort of gets better there. Obviously the second and third are a lot different. The second one's probably more similar to the first, but the third one is a big sort of rebellion against the capital. And so you'll have to, I don't want to ruin anything, especially if you haven't seen it. I suppose all of you have probably seen it by now. But yeah. It was written by Suzanne Collins, who again is another very good writer. I wonder if she's written anything else since. She's oh. She's written a new book called The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. We'll revisit the world of Panem 64 years before the events of the Hunger Games, starting on the morning of the reaping of the 10th Hunger Games. I'm really hoping a film comes of this as well. That is amazing. I might have to genuinely read that. I might have to get my hands on that. It's 15 quid at Waterstone, so that's a little bit expensive, isn't it? I will definitely have to read that. But yeah, very, very, very good books. I know it's expected on 19th of May 2020. That is pretty sick. She's also written other children's novels in the form of Gregor the Underland Chronicles. It tells the story of a boy named Gregor and his adventures in the Underland, a subterranean world located under New York City. That's pretty sick if you want another different series to read. She's also written Fireproof in 1999, Year of the Jungle in 2013, and When Charlie McButton Lost Power in 2005. So books that probably no one's ever heard of. Anyway, so if you haven't checked them out, go check them out. They are very good reads as well as movies. Now the last I want to sort of pick up on is a absolutely massive book series, but they are easily the easiest books I've ever read. Now this comes from, what year would I have been in? Probably year 8, year 9. I broke my right ankle during a long jump incident. It wasn't actually the long jump. I was running up to the long jump because I'm sick at long jump. I still hold myself very highly in the long jump category. Where my mate, or I'll say my mate, some absolute dickhead who I didn't like. He was a very popular kid, but he was a cunt. He decided to jump on the run-up track. Well, usually it's quite flat. But at Friesland, if you've ever been to Friesland School, the sort of run-up track is a little bit like, imagine like that. It's sort of indented. It's been dug up and some stones have been thrown in so you can run. It's quite flat. It's like practicing, but there's still like on the edge of it. There's still like a verge. So I'm running at pretty much full speed at this point. He decides to step in front of me, probably about 10 yards in front of me. So I slow down and try and move to the right. As I move to the right, I clip my ankle against this grass verge, but bearing in mind I was going pretty quick because I'm rapid, and as I do that, as I'm running up against this grass verge, I clip my ankle like that and sort of try and sort of land on the ankle. Because I tripped, I tried to land straight back on that ankle and sort of push so much pressure through as I've snapped. At the time, didn't know this. Snapped a load of ligaments that it's now pushed my foot the other way, and I break a bone in the other side of my foot. So on the right hand side of my right foot, you've got obviously your ankle bone, you've got all your ligaments. I snapped and just fucked off a load of them. They disappeared for a while, and then obviously there was no support for when I put my foot down, that this was just being pressed and my ankle just pushed upwards and a load of bones sort of interclicked on each other and snapped a load of bones. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent. I then went back to school, and Friesland's policy was you're only allowed in the maths block because it's the first block you get to when you get there. Maths, science and technology block. And so they didn't want me, especially with a broken ankle in a cast, walking around the school that allowed, for some fuck known reason, for you to go upstairs. I was capable to walk after about a week and a half. So I spent 6 weeks while I was in this cast in the library, because you have to spend time in your library doing all your other lessons. You get lessons sent down to you. Sometimes when I'd done because I do work quick, I was one of them kids where I was like, do my work dead quick, got a lot of free time. And the librarian, who I didn't particularly get on with, but the more I was in there, and I thought, I've got 6 weeks to spend in here, I might as well be nice to her at the very least. I actually became quite good friends with. She was lovely. She said, you look a bit bored. Bearing in mind, I wanted to go on the laptop, all the computers in the library, and you weren't allowed because we weren't doing work. And she was a little bit strict like that, to be fair to her. She was like, I can genuinely give you some good books to read. And I was like, no, I don't read books, because I'd never really read books. And she was like, genuinely, you might enjoy some of these. And I was like, okay then. and she gave me this one called The Recruit, made by Robert Muchamore. He's a #1 international best-selling author. He has made quite a few books. He specifically, in terms of these, he's made the Henderson Boys and the Cherub series. Now, the Cherub series are the ones that I read, which was quite ironic, because after I read the first one, me and my cousin used to be best mates, and I mean we still probably are, but I just don't see him as much as I used to. I went round his house and said, look, I've just been reading this book, and he was like, what are the fucking odds? I'm reading the Henderson Boys one made by the same author. So he really liked that series, I really like this series. Little insider information to the book series. It follows a group of teenagers, or children, at age between 10 and 17, this says, and they become sort of mini secret agents that work for like a governmental sort of body. Now, the reason they do this is because they're either teens that have been in trouble with law enforcement, or, you know, instead of sending them to juvenile prison, if they've got special sort of skill sets, you know, if they're very clever, if they're very strong, if they think they could utilise their sort of physical and mental skills, they can say, look, instead of getting into trouble, instead of just sending you to a juvenile centre, do you want to come work for us? Now it follows, I can't remember, like I say, I can't remember names of people too much. Oh wow, okay, so he's actually drawn a map of the Cherub campus facility, which I think is pretty cool, because obviously you don't get pictures in the book, but it's quite cool to really visualise it. And I'm not being funny, but I think this is a lot closer to what I imagined than I expected. Because when you're reading books, you make up pictures in your head, that's the whole point. No, I sort of saw something a lot like this. Anyway, it follows James. He's picked up along with his little sister, who's a bit too young for this sort of world straight away. Who you find out later on in the series, I don't know if it's straight away or whatever, but his dad was part of this whole project. Now, I think his dad might have died or something along those lines. Or they're trying to find the truth about James's dad. So James, I think either his mum dies or his mum goes to prison or something happens. They don't live with their stepdad because he's abusive or something, I can't quite remember. Like I say, I'm talking 10 years ago I read these, but I would still highly recommend these. So it follows in the recruit, hence why he's a recruit, this kid that they say, look, we've got this program, do you want to be part of it? And initially he goes, no, this is shit, runs away, or whatever he does, but realises that he can really make something for himself with this. He can meet new people, he could do what he wants, he can, you know, it's like being in the army specifically, you get that regimented lifestyle, which is good for a lot of people that don't really know where they're heading in life. Anyway, so just for a quick, brief view, I'm just going to read out what this guy says. He says, for official purposes, these children do not exist. Thank you. Didn't really know that, but he says, a terrorist doesn't let strangers in her flat because they might be undercover police or intelligence agents. True. But her children may bring their mates home and they run all over the place. The terrorist doesn't know that one of these kids has bugged every room in her house, made copies of all her computer files and stolen her address book, because this kid works for Cherub. Now, it's a very sort of child labour look on quite a few things, but when you think about it, it's probably a really effective way to infiltrate organisations. Now, it isn't the same in every book. There is so many different varieties of missions they go on. One of them, I think they get sent abroad. One of them is a local school where someone's like a rival gang member. One of them is all I've got a picture in my head is it's like a biker gang where one of them keeps killing people. One of them, this one here that says maximum security, that's the third in the book series. Can't quite remember what that was from. I know there's one where it's like a hippie group, hippie gang with drugs. That's a big issue, so they have to really infiltrate certain areas. And sometimes they get placed, like 3 or 4 of them in a family, to infiltrate different age groups of other families to like become mates with someone that's close to this person and stuff like that to really gather intel. But without giving too much away, it is such a fantastic book series to ever read. If you're a little bit younger than me, if you're like, I don't know, 13 to 18 maybe, just pick up the first book, go to your school library. I'm pretty sure they'll definitely have one of these in. Pick it up, give it a read, see if you enjoy it. If you don't, that's fine. If you do, then trust me, it gets better. Because not only do you see them go on these missions, meet new people, you get to see sort of like, because they're working with similar agents in the same position that they are. I know throughout the book, James, if that's the main character, I think it is, you see him develop a love for this girl that's there, but then when they go on a mission, they have to pose as a family of 5. You know, you've got their dad or their officer, whatever you call him, who is like a dad to these children at the end of the day. His name is James Adams, was going to save the world fighting, swearing, getting drunk, lusting after girls and using the toilet. That's what Muchimo's just said about it. I lost what I was going on. I always get sidetracked. But they have to pose as a family of 5, and obviously he's in love with this girl, but they can't really be in love with each other because they're posing as brother and sister, because otherwise why would they live together at such a young age? So has to try and get in with other people. Anyway, sees this other girl at another school that he has to go to, because at the end of the day, they have to live ordinary lives while trying to gather intel. And I think that's the best part about it. It's sort of like, I was at school, and they were at school, but they were doing so much, like, bigger things, really, like, infiltrating, spying sort of things. Anyway, just so you guys know, there is 17 books in this series. That is a lot of books. Obviously, you don't have to read them. It goes into... Where does it stop? Oh no, sorry. So you've got the Recruit Class A, which I assume is about drugs, because it's called Class A. But there's also a speedometer, so maybe not. Maximum Security, then The Killing. You have Divine Madness, Man vs. Beast, The Fall, Mad Dogs. I think Mad Dogs is the one that's about the biker gang, if I'm not mistaken. And then we have The Sleepwalker, The General. Oh no, Brigand's MC is about the biker gang. There's a big bike on the front, and I remember Brigand's MC being about it. So bearing in mind, within 6 weeks of being in this, I'd read all of these books. I think. It was People's Republic, if I remember correctly, the one about I want to say hippie group. Now, come to think of it, they were an extremist group. So there were people that were protesting, they were meeting in fields. I sort of understand now, I'm at an older age, what it was about. I'm not sure if I read all of these. I've got a feeling I didn't. Maybe I need to read Guardian Angel. I think the People's Republic is the one I finished on. But I genuinely want to read these again, so I might have to pick them up. Anyway, even now, I'm 22. I want to go back and read these. All I remember is that they were easy to read. The Guardian rate them a 10 out of 10. Now, for books to be rated highly, they have to be good, or they have to be well known. You know, Harry Potter, 10 out of 10. There's some books that you read and you think, yeah, shit. The Guardian rated it a 10 out of 10. Daily Mail said, cracking tension and a high-octane drama, which is why it's gripping and so easy to read. The Sunday Express have said, punchy, exciting, glamorous, and what's more, you'll completely wish it was true. And that was me as a kid. That was me in school thinking, I really wish this was true, because I'd love to be one of these people. Anyway, so the author, I just want to give you a brief rundown, because I can't recommend these anymore. He says, in 1998, my 12-year-old nephew moaned that books were for geeks, and there was nothing cool to read. I'd always wanted to be a writer, and his comments stuck in my mind for a few years, gradually turning into the idea for Cherub. I never imagined writing 17 books and more than 1 million words about James and his friends, or that books would go on to sell over 15 million copies in 26 languages. I got to quit my boring job, made lots of money and travelled the world. It was amazing. These days, the question I get asked is, will you write more Cherub books? For now, the answer is no. I often point out to younger fans that I've been writing Cherub books for longer than they've been alive. It's 12 years since the first idea for Cherub, and now I need to take a break. He'd wrote 17 books in 12 years. That's a lot. But Cherub isn't dead. We're hoping to make a TV series. And maybe someday I'll feel inspired to write another Cherub story, but I don't think that'll happen for a long time. I'd love to see a 17 series show about the Cherub. That'd be so fucking mint. But obviously you've got okay. So if you go onto their website, Much More's website, you get to see obviously the book series where you can buy them from, stuff like that. But there's also other stories. Cherub Junior Spies in Training, Alternative Cherub Futures set in 2031, The Playboy, The Family Man and the Chairman. These are all books, 20-page like mini stories that you can read for free. Carrie's First Mission and Cherub Disconnected. There's also a map that you can look at. I want to see the map just because it's pretty much exactly how I envisioned. Oh, it shows how the Cherub... This guy's sick. It shows how in different areas and different periods of the stories the campus has changed and grown. And at the end of the maps, because it's like a document, it says, warning, anyone caught in possession of this top secret document is extremely naughty. It may be fed to the campus guard dogs. What a guy. I genuinely might pick up this book set. How much is it for the full books? Amazon. Oh no, don't be too expensive. Can I pick up all of them? 15 books is 50 quid. That is expensive, fam. The 10 book collection is £43. So yeah, they are pretty expensive, but if you get a chance to read them, maybe in your library. I read all of them in my school library. This is definitely the longest video I've done in terms of this whole section, but I can't recommend that enough. So, number 1 on my list are the Cherub books, which is why I wanted to leave them to last. Number 2, probably the Hunger Games, especially with the new one coming out next year. Maybe if you want a chance to read up until the 3rd one. No, read up until the 4th one that's coming out next year, and then obviously when it comes out, try and get a chance to read it. The Cherub book. They're currently free on Audible. Oh yeah, you have to get Audible for $3.99. So if you can get them on Audible. If you're one that likes audiobooks, then they're free. If you've got the they're free if you've got Audible. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I know this one was a little bit different. Oh, it just, when you think about films that you've watched, you think, yeah, that was a sick film. When you think about TV series that you've watched, you think, yeah, they were sick TV series, I recommend them. And people will probably go out and check them. For books, not only were these sick, I want to go back and read them. And I've never really felt like that with anything more than these book series. And also, it's something you probably won't even ever check out, which I think is really annoying because they're so good. Anyway, hope you guys have enjoyed, and I shall see you later. Good.